It's 2 a.m. The match ended 4 hours ago. You've been in bed for 2 of them, eyes open, and your brain is still showing you the goal, the angle, the keeper going the wrong way, the guy who didn't track the run. You already know the result. You were there for it. And you're still watching it again. This isn't about football. Or it is, but not in the way you think. Your body was already in trouble before the final whistle. Researchers at the University of Oxford collected saliva from Brazilian football fans during the 2014 World Cup. Before matches, during, after. What they found, cortisol, the stress hormone, spiked during live games. Not a little, a lot, and it was highest in fans who felt most fused with their team. The 7-1 against Germany, specifically. The fans who identified most with Brazil had the biggest cortisol response of anyone in the study. Cortisol does one thing well. It tells your body there's a threat, raises your heart rate, sharpens your focus, gets you ready to react. Useful during a match, not useful at midnight when you're trying to sleep. The match ended. The cortisol didn't. That's the first problem. Your nervous system ran a full stress response key for 90 plus minutes, and it doesn't have an off switch you can just flip. You're lying in the dark, and your body is still running. The second problem is the replay. You're not choosing to think about the goal again. It comes back. Same sequence, same outcome. You can't stop it, and the harder you try to stop it, the more it comes back. There's a name for this. Rumination, repetitive, involuntary focus on something negative. And the reason it feels impossible to stop is that since your brain has mistaken it for problem solving. The neural circuits active when you're obsessively replaying that goal overlap with the circuits that fire when you're actually solving a problem. Your brain can't tell the difference. It thinks it's working. So it keeps going. The substitution that didn't happen, the defensive shape, the manager's decision at halftime. You run through all of it and you arrive exactly where you started. Real thinking moves somewhere. Rumination just goes in circles, but it never feels that way in the moment. It feels like you're one more replay away from understanding something. You're not. Here's what makes this worse than just a bad night. The reason your cortisol spiked in the first place, the reason the replay won't stop, the reason this feels bigger than it should, it's because of whose loss it actually is. Brain imaging studies show that sports outcomes activate the same self-referential neural circuits that process personal achievements and personal failures. Not similar circuits, the same ones. When your team loses, your brain doesn't file it under event I observed. It files it under something that happened to me. Researchers call this identity fusion, the degree to which your sense of self has merged with your club. When the fusion is high, a win reads as a personal triumph. A loss reads as a personal failure. This isn't metaphor. It's a measurable pattern in brain activity. Research with British football fans found that fusion doesn't come primarily from time spent following the club. It comes from feeling personally shaped by key moments, the goals you remember, the relegations you lived through, the ones that hurt the most, the losses especially. If you've been following your club for 10, 15, 20 years, your brain has had that entire time to practice treating what happens to them as something that happens to you. A big defeat doesn't just activate disappointment, it activates a threat to identity. And your nervous system responds to that the same way it responds to anything else it reads as a real threat. The cortisol at midnight isn't an overreaction. It's exactly the reaction your brain was built to produce. You're probably thinking, it's just sport. People lose jobs, relationships break, people die, and you're lying awake because of a football match. That thought is completely understandable. And it's also why most fans never actually process what happens to them after a bad result. They dismiss it before it even gets examined. Nobody is saying a Champions League loss hits the same as losing someone you love. It doesn't. But the brain doesn't have a separate system for serious loss and sports loss. It has one system. And when that system gets activated, which it does measurably, when your highly fused identity takes a hit, you get the full response. The cortisol, the rumination, the inability to sleep. Sports losses activate the same systems in the brain and body as other life disappointments. Not because football is as important as everything else, because your brain doesn't sort by importance. It sorts by threat. And you've spent years teaching it that this club matters. Most fans don't talk about this part. You don't tell your coworker you barely slept. You don't tell your partner how much it actually got to you. You minimize it, call it stupid, say you'll get over it. And then at 3 a.m., you're still watching the goal. The shame is its own separate thing. This feeling that you shouldn't be this affected, that caring this much is embarrassing. But the reaction you're having isn't weakness. It's not disproportionate to what you've invested. It's the predictable output of a brain that has genuinely incorporated your club into how it defines you. Knowing that doesn't make the ceiling any closer to sleep, but it changes what you're dealing with. Not, I can't stop thinking about the match. Something more like, my stress system is still running. My brain is stuck in a loop looking for a resolution that isn't coming. And none of this is going to be resolved by replaying the 68th minute one more time. You can stop trying to solve it. There's nothing to solve. The match is done. The question worth sitting with, not tonight when your cortisol is still up and your default mode network is treating your bedroom like a VAR room, is how much of who you are is tied to how they play. Not as a judgment, genuinely as a question. If a Tuesday night result can hold you hostage until 3 a.m., something got fused that you might not have consciously signed up for. That's worth knowing. If you've been there, lying awake, running the same sequence, drop the match in the comments. I want to know which one it was.